Thank you very much. I'd like to call the November 14th quarterly board meeting in the Kentucky Retirement System to order. And Michael, would you please give us the legal public statement?
Yes, ma'am. For the record, I want to note that this is a regular meeting of the Kentucky Retirement Systems Board of Trustees. This meeting is being broadcast via video teleconference pursuant to Kentucky Revised Statute Section 61.826 and may be viewed by the public at the Kentucky Public Pensions Authority offices located at 1260 Louisville Road in Frankfort, Kentucky. It is also being broadcast to the public via Facebook. I ask if you are speaking and are not appearing by video, please identify yourself before talking. In the event the video or audio broadcast is interrupted, we will attempt to reestablish a connection. If a connection cannot be reestablished within 30 minutes, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled to another date. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And Sherry, the roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Hampton,
Here.
Mr. Atkins, Ms. Bova, here. Ms. Eves, Mr. Lane,
Here.
Dr. Miller, here. Mr. Piercy,
Here.
Mr. Summers,
I'm here.
and Ms. Thompson. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sherry. And are there any public comments?
No, ma'am, no public comment.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of 2 minutes, the September 7th legal lessons that we had in the September 14th quarterly minutes. Are there any comments on the minutes, either one of them?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Both minutes? William?
Yes.
Both sets of minutes? Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, no further comments. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. The minutes are approved. Next on the agenda is the, this is Janie, and we have the actuarial report by Janie and Danny. And I saw that they were on the line.
Yes, good morning, everybody. My name is Janie Shaw. I'm one of your actuaries, and I have Danny White with me here today. And we're going to be going over the June 30, 2023 actuarial valuation results. We come in with fairly good news today, so that's always good to be able to say as your actuaries, not to be coming in with bad news. But we're going to first kind of go through what has changed since the prior year. And then I'll kind of walk through how that impacts your contribution rates and how that impacts your unfunded liability. And like I said, I have Danny White here with me today, and he's going to kind of go through some more of the valuation results and also do a projection of your unfunded liability as well as your contribution requirement. So if we get started on the next slide here today, one of the changes that we've had since the prior year, as the board may remember, we were here back in June talking about your actuarial assumptions. The board did adopt some new actuarial assumptions after an experience study that we performed. On a high level, that experience study really told us that most of your assumptions were still valid, that they were still reasonable for our purposes, but we did recommend a few updated assumptions, which the board did adopt. Some highlights from those new assumptions were your mortality assumption. We updated new mortality rates. In general, that lowered the life expectancy for your members. We also recommended new termination rates, increasing your rates of termination prior to retirement, ultimately decreasing the probability that your members get to retirement. And then we also increased the investment return assumption for the insurance funds to 6.5%. Ultimately, what these new assumptions did is it lowered your contribution requirement and lowered the unfunded liability for your funds. Looking at the next slide here, one of the major changes that we're going to be talking about as far as this year's valuation results was the change in your active membership and the change in your active membership payroll. We saw significant increases in your membership payroll this year. Looking at the K Hazardous Fund, a 20% increase in your membership payroll, State Police, a 30% increase in your membership payroll. This wasn't entirely unexpected. If you think back 2 years ago to the legislative session, the State Police saw big increases in their payroll schedule. So we knew these increases were coming. We knew that we were going to see these, but this does have a significant impact on your valuation results. When we talk about increases in membership payroll, we're really talking about two aspects that drive these things. The first is an increase in your active membership, and we did see an increase in your active membership across all of the funds. And the second is an increase in your the covered payroll for your current active members, and we did see that as well. And we're actually going to touch on that in a few slides. One note here for your K non-hazardous fund, as you know, because of House Bill 8, your contribution rates are no longer tied to payroll. So this total increase in membership payroll isn't going to impact your contribution rates for this fund. But as I talked about, that increase in the members in the increase in the payroll for your active members is going to, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So on the so two pieces of legislation to talk about here. The first is House Bill 506, which passed in 2023. What it did is it reinstated the partial lump sum option and also adjusted the minimum required separation period for return to work. This had a minimal impact for your non-hazardous fund. And then also 2 years ago, House Bill 1 and House Bill 604, it provided $240 million in additional appropriations coming in fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2024. We recognized one of those in last year's valuation, and we're going to be recognizing another one of those in this year's K hazardous valuation. Okay, so we will start on the asset side of things. As far as our experience, we saw from about 7% to 9% return on your market value of assets, which is higher than your investment return assumption. Put another way, your fund's assets were about 158 million more than we were expecting. But keep in mind, when we calculate your contribution rates, when we calculate your unfunded liability, what we're using is an actuarial value of assets rather than the market value of assets that we get from system staff. So what we're doing is we're actually smoothing in those investment gains over 5 years. We're also taking into account deferred asset gains and losses from prior years. So what that brings us for this year's valuation is we had 11 million in asset gains across all three funds. So that's the asset side of things. If we look at the liability side of things, for the retirement fund, we had a $545 million loss across the K and state police funds. What this really means is your liability was $545 million higher than we were expecting. This was primarily attributable to those salary increases that we were talking about. Your active members got higher salary increases than we were expecting based on our assumptions. And so higher salary increases means higher projected benefits, which means a higher liability for those members. On the insurance side of things, we had a $199 million loss for those funds as well. And your liability for your insurance funds is going to be driven almost entirely by your premiums. So your 2024 pre-Medicare premiums were higher than we were expecting, which was offset a little bit by your Medicare premiums, which were lower than we were expecting. So ultimately, one more note here. This is kind of a note we make every year for the K non-hazardous fund. As we all know, the K non-hazardous fund still has a very high unfunded liability. So it's still really imperative that we keep the contributions high, keep them at the actually required level. Just to keep in mind, we did pay out about $1 billion in benefit payments, received about $1.3 billion in employer contributions. When you compare that to plan assets, it's just important to keep the contribution effort high. So the big reveal, where does this come for our employer contributions? What does this leave us? That was a lot of information. Ultimately, where does this leave us? So I'm actually going to start with the K hazardous and the state police fund here. So if we start on columns 4 and column 6, so these are the contribution rates calculated in the 2022 valuation. Keep in mind the 2022 valuation was just for informational purposes because of the biannual budgeting. The contribution rates that are currently in effect are a little bit higher. For K hazardous, it's about 31.82%, and state police is currently paying 99.43%. So those are the contribution rates that are currently in effect. Looking at columns 5 and 7, these are the contribution rates that are calculated in this year's valuations. The 23.74%, and yes, the 68.1% for the state police valuation. So these are the contribution rates we calculated in this year's valuation, and these go into effect July 1st, 2024 for 2 years. So you can see pretty significant decreases in these contribution rates, driven pretty much primarily due to those increases in your membership payroll. A little bit of decrease to the assumption changes as well, but primarily due to the membership payroll changes. Moving on, oh, sorry, if we could go back one more slide there. Moving on to the non-hazardous side, again, because of House Bill 8, this contribution is split into 2 pieces. So first, we have the normal cost, which is going to be paid on payroll. So we can see a decrease there. Some of that is just driven by, we expect this normal cost rate to go down each year because, as you know, Tier 1, Tier 2 members retire, they're replaced by Tier 3 members who have a lower normal cost rate. And some of that is driven by the assumption changes. So we do see that normal cost rate coming down. And then we do also see the amortization cost going down by 49 million. I actually have another slide that's going to break this down a little bit more. So we'll talk about that in a slide or two. So what does this mean in terms of actually dollar amounts when we talk about the dollar amounts of the contributions that are actually required? So when your contribution rates come down like that, as a mainly due to increased membership payroll, you can see that the actual dollar contributions that we're actually needing for the doesn't change very much. So when you look at the K-hazardous plan and the state police plan, when you look at the actually determined contribution on a dollar amount, it really doesn't change that much. The state police plan actually goes up by $2 million there. On the the K non-hazardous plan, it's going down about 43 million, mainly driven by that amortization cost. So we'll dig into the K non-hazardous amortization cost a little bit further. So again, the amortization cost that's currently being allocated to your employers is at 994 million. That was based on the 2021 valuation. We did the 2022 valuation. Again, that was for informational purposes only because of the biannual budgeting and because of how that works. We saw a decrease there. That was primarily driven by your insurance funds, by that Medicare premium experience that we saw last year. So we saw about a 20 million decrease because of those appropriations that we talked about. And we saw a decrease due to the assumption changes that we made in the experience study, which was offset due to the salary increases that we saw for your members in the K non-hazardous fund, ultimately leaving us into an amortization cost of about 857 million. So that's kind of how the breakdown works for the change for this plan. In terms of the unfunded liability, you can see the unfunded liability is coming down across all funds. Keep in mind, we do expect the unfunded liability to come down for all of the pension funds, and that's because of the contribution rates that we're making for these funds. We expect that unfunded liability to be systematically paid down. That's a good thing. That's what we want to see with the contribution rates that we're making. So you can see coming down about 790 million for the K non-hazardous fund. That was a little bit more than we were expecting. But the more that we were expecting was mainly driven by those assumption changes that we made. So I just want to take a pause here and say, yes, we still have a fairly large unfunded liability when we look at the K non-hazardous fund, about $12.8 billion. But the good news is that we are systematically paying this unfunded liability off. And the big driver behind that is going to be the contributions that we're paying. So it's just really important that those continue to get paid. And I'm actually, before I turn it over to Danny, I think this is my last slide. I'm just going to take a pause there, see if there's any questions or comments from the board.
I don't see anyone with their hand up, so.
All right, very good. We'll go on to the next part. My name's Danny White, actuary with KRS. You know, I think this is, as Jamie summarized very well, probably better than I could. We did come in with great news, and it's nothing we did. It's just plan experience, contribution efforts, a lot of efforts made by KPPA in prior years in getting the contribution rates where they are. I do remember in prior meetings prior to KPPA, when the KRS board, we've had board members ask, do we ever come in with good news? And it's happy to say, yes, we've come in with good news this year. So hopefully write that down in your diary, because it won't happen every year, but It's nice to see it when it does. And it's all due to experience by the Commonwealth. It's nothing we've done in particular. So we'll look at changes in membership and look at some forward-looking projections. And one of the first positive signs I've seen in my mind is this first chart on the left, where we actually see an increase in active membership. Prior to this time, we've seen a downward march in membership, and it led to the spiral in the contribution effort where we are today. And so I think there's a lot of reasons for an increase in membership, but hopefully the way they changed the contributions for collecting the contributions to be non-payroll based help be part of a positive change that we're seeing here. And what we certainly hope is this is going to be a new continuing trend going forward, but that's ultimately going to depend on the state budget and the growth of the Commonwealth. So here we are on you see the non-has on the left, on the right you've got the KRS and the state police, which are much smaller in magnitude. Again, we've seen increase in state police. Hopefully that increase in salary be more attractive, get more people through, more troopers through the academy, and you know, they get appropriately compensated. We go to the next slide. Change in payroll, just an incredible change in payroll over the years. This is a catch up. You know, I think it's part of a wage, just you know, I don't want to say wage inflation, but it's what it is in terms of trying to maintain and attract a workforce. The workforce is tight out there, unemployment's low, inflation's been running high, so it's you know, it's a combination of those matters are driving and the free budget available has increased this compensation. What I like to see is it's in, you know, we've also saw it on the KRS side. So it's not just at the state level, but it's also at the county and local government level. But you got non-has, KRS non-has on the left again, and you got the hazardous and state police on the right. Go to the next slide. Retired membership count. This is, you know, for all systems, this is actually one that we can project and predict with more reliability because we already know who the members are. We already know they're retired, who they are, what their demographics are, and as well as that cohort behind it with the active members, you know, project out how they're going to move through into retirement. So we say that we're going to expect to see this really more plateau on all groups, and that's because we've seen the number of active memberships decline over time. So we don't expect a number of changes in the forthcoming years. Next slide. You got the benefit distributions. Similar story. We go to the next slide. Okay, we got Janie showed some high level summaries of the information for the detailed oriented board members. This will provide you the details. You take the top part of the line or part of the chart, I should say. That's on the income statement side, the development of the contribution effort. You've got the normal cost, which is the total value of benefits accrued. Members pay for part of that, 5% for the non-haz, 8% on pension for the hazardous. We factor in administrative expenses that are paid through directly on a year-by-year basis. And then also you have the amortization cost for the K non-haz. That's a dollar amount shown at the very, you know, the dollar cost to be allocated, say 155 million for pension, 2 million for insurance. For the other systems, the hazardous, you can see it is still a percentage of pay. And then at the bottom, you've got what I refer to as the balance sheet item. So you have the actuarial accrued liability of the system. You have the actuarial value of assets on your asset side. So your net unfunded liability, and you can see how that's gone down from 13.5 billion and for the the first system, the non-haz pension, down to 12.7 billion for this year. And now the funded ratio is back above 20%. It's actually, I believe, a little higher on a market value basis. And then on the hazardous side, you can also see the same effect too, where the dollar amount of the unfunded went down, funded ratio went up. And we're going to show you projections of how this is going to look, into the future. We go to the next slide. Same information for state police. So again, while the actuarial determined rate has gone down, it looks like 20%. Just note that, as Janie did, that the contribution effort in terms of dollar amount is going to stay, isn't really going to change that much. It's because we've got a dollar amount we're expecting, it's being spread over a larger payroll, so that effort as a percentage of pay goes down. Okay, we got some projection information going forward. This is just a document. We're essentially not building in any gains or losses into our projections. We're expecting our assumptions to play out each and every year in the future. We go to the next slide. We're going to start with the KRS non-hazardous plan. So the two, what we've got is on the left side, we've got the pension plan. The right side, two charts are insurance. The top two is what I refer to as the balance sheet item, and the bottom two are contribution efforts, or income. So you have on the unfunded liability, you see the blue charts, the blue table that goes down each year. So that's your unfunded liability. So you can see how that's being paid off or financed, similar to a mortgage. You have the funded ratio in the red trend line that's going towards 100. And then on the bottom, that's your employer contribution effort. So you have the normal cost rate in the black line. And then along the blue charts, think of that as your mortgage payments, your amortization payments each year, your payment schedule of what's going to be paid each year going forward to get that unfunded liability paid down. Go to the next slide. We're going to have the K hazardous. It's going to be a similar story, just different scales. And then also note that it's paid as a percentage of pay. So the contribution rate may bounce around a little more, as a rate or percentage of pay, but the amortization dollars are still along an expected schedule. And we have the same with the state police. You have the unfunded liability again, and then the contribution effort along the bottom. You see where it spikes after about 20 years, and understand that that's going to play out as you have tiered or tranched amortization layers, and that's all set in statute. But every new layer, every new year of experience, you're building in a new 20-year base that's going to be funded over 20 years. So as we get closer and closer to there, there's going to be, I expect it to look very different than as we actually approach it, as new experience emerges. With that, are there any questions before we go into our closing comments?
Anyone have any questions, Danny? Danny, I have a question. Could you go back to page 30? Okay, one more back. I thought it was 30. There,
Yep.
right there. Is this non-hazardous? Let me look at the title.
It's the KRS non-haz.
Okay. Given that I'm not an actuary, I think this is correct. The 3038 is when we project being funded. Is that correct?
48.
48?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And that is not going to change because we changed the rate of funding. That will play out over time, but it will always stay 48.
Yeah, that is correct. You have that is set by the board, has control over certain assumptions, how it's financed. But one it doesn't have that's baked into statute is the funding period or amortization period, how it's actually paid down. That is established in statute. And that was reset or established to 2048 as part of the 2020 legislative session right there prior to COVID. It was reestablished and put in as the existing unfunded liability is financed down over 2048. Any new unfunded liability or any experience gains and losses that occur prior to that time are financed over a much shorter 20-year amortization. So you can see at the bottom to where you have the original base was higher, but ever since 2020, we've had, due to various nuances, we've had some positive experience that gets amortized over a shorter 20-year period. So that's why you see you see it more of a dip the first 20 years, and then it starts to bake back up after year 20, is because of those, what essentially is you get to recognize some of that positive experience over shorter time than that original unfunded liability that's being mortgaged or financed.
I just want to make a technical clarification. It's actually 2049 where it's going to be
Okay.
projected to be 100% funded.
Any other questions of either Danny or Janie?
I believe you got a couple hands up, Lynn.
Okay, Dave? Dave, are you able to talk now?
You're
No.
muted.
You're muted now. And
You're on mute, Mr. Eager.
Can you hear me now?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
I just want to go back to the point that Danny made about employment going up for the first time in decade, at least a decade, that it's kind of an unintended, maybe not unintended, but it's kind of a side benefit of House Bill 8, and that is Personnel Cabinet has for years talked about the high vacancy rate or open positions that they're unable to fill. And now that employers bring in new employees are paying only the normal cost, less than 10%, as opposed to 83%, has really allowed employers to repopulate their staffs. And I take it that was a significant benefit from House Bill 8, unrelated to the pensions.
Yeah.
and John?
Yes, following with Dave's comment, the expansion in payroll is almost entirely, or maybe entirely, tier 3, to which there's a low probability of having an unfunded liability. So that's a good thing too. I might point out that, or just emphasize something Danny mentioned, and that is that the state budget is going very well. It puzzles me a little bit where all that money's coming from, but they've got a lot of money and they've been good in kicking additional money into the pension plans, which is wonderful, and paying the actuarially determined contribution. In the past, during tight budget years, they had cut back and didn't pay the full actuarially determined contribution, and that's a major contributor to the unfunded liability. So if the budget gets tight again in the future, there won't be money to kick in extra. And one way of lowering the burden on the pension cost is to refinance it like you would a house mortgage, and instead of ending up in 2048 having it paid off, to stretch it out for another 3 or 5 years. So things are going well now, and thanks to everybody on that part.
Thank you. Our last closing comments is just, while things are going well, it's imperative to continue the effort. We do have a long ways to go. Your KNON is 20% funded, so we're not there yet. But you got to keep the effort going, keep the paying the actuarial determined contribution, make sure that the way the contribution rate is determined stays as it is. There was a lot of thought and effort put into where we are to get to a more financial secure place. So we need to continue that. And then again, there's a lot of reasons outside the system about the increase in active members and payroll, but it is a positive sign. As they noted, was one of the benefits, and we argued this when they put in House Bill 8 on this dollar amortization, is for those entities that are growing or want to increase their workforce, they're not penalized by the pension cost being a percent, having to pay a full rate. Rather, they just pay the normal cost on that each additional increment of new FTE or full-time employee. So that's and also with the increase in the payroll, being able to give increases in payroll because the dollar amount of the amortization is set independently. So there was a lot of thought that was given into that to try to encourage this type of outcome. But again, it's really driven by state budget and a lot of external forces outside the pension plan. But this helped give a tailwind rather than a headwind. And that
Thank you
concludes
very-
our presentation.
Thank you very much for good news and for really taking some time to explain some of the detail of the report. So thank you very much. Okay,
Madam-
next up,
Madam
yes,
Chair, if I could please, I just wanted to notate that Trustee Mary Eves did come in during that presentation. So I just wanted to note her attendance today.
thank you, Sherry.
And Lynn, this is Mary. Can you hear
Uh-huh.
me?
I can.
Thank you for that presentation. And this is more a question to Dave. Is there a normal feed in from all this information into both the participating employers and into the budget process of what the increases in payroll or increases in active members is doing to both the contribution rate as well as the funded ratio? This is great information for us, but I'm just wondering, do the people who are making these decisions about employing people and more people and employing them at higher rates, are they automatically given this information about the impact?
Well, I wouldn't say automatically, but I'd say there's a multiple methods of communication. To begin with, next Monday at the PPOB meeting, I'm to make a presentation on the evaluations that essentially I'm going to use. I'm going to pick from the GRS slides and add a few things to it. So there's the key starting point is the PPOB by statute gets presented this information. We do it independently with trustees as well. We have a government employees newsletter that'll comment on this. We have an employer newsletter that'll comment on this. We do press releases. Hopefully it'll get into the media. So the short answer is yes.
Thank you.
Mary, just for your information, the PPOB meeting you can watch online, and it is very interesting. And I think over the years, the PPOB has become a real asset to to KPPA, the organization.
And GRS will be on that call. They won't be there physically, but they'll be on that call. But in the past, on several occasions, they've actually come to Frankfurt to make the presentation to PPOB.
Thank you.
Okay. And again, thank you, Danny and Janie. And on to the Joint Health Plan Committee report. And
Lynn, before we leave the actuaries, I had thought I sent a memo regarding the annuity rates to be included in here. Sherry, did that get included in the board information?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Let me ask Michael. Michael, this, what John's talking about is the issue that CERS handled yesterday. Can it be included in our agenda today?
Yes,
It isn't.
this is a regular meeting, so there's no restriction, like there would be in a special meeting of only discussing items on the agenda. So in a regular meeting, you can add this item if you need to.
Okay. John, can you, I know it's a very complicated issue. Do you think you could summarize it without, and then send the letter out later?
Yeah, I can do that. You want to do it now or in new business? Well,
Why don't we do,
it when GRS is here,
yeah, I would suggest that also. So please.
and it may need some help from Aaron along the way as well. There have been discussions about increasing the investment rate for annuity calculations. Those are the rates used when somebody retires and they choose various types of annuity. The investment return that's embedded in those payments in recent history, at least, has been 5.5%, which applied to all the plans, the KRS plan, the state police plan, and CERS. There's been discussion about increasing that rate, in part because of the improvements in fixed income in the general markets and our success in exceeding our investment rates, expected investment returns. The annuity rate, assumed rate, and I'll get Danny to comment on this some. There's a relationship between the annuity rate and commercial annuity rates, which seem to be at this point about 5.25%, the commercial rates. They have a profit embedded in that rate as they compare to their investment return. And they've got administrative costs like we do. So once the rate is fixed, it continues for the entire term of the annuity, which is often the life of the participant. So the question is whether we should increase the rate for computing an annuities from 5.25, and what's been suggested and what CERS adopted was 5.875, which is the midpoint of the difference between our 5.25% assumed rate and their 6.5%. There's also rates that are used to compute the amount that a retired employee that goes back into the system. Aaron, you might help out with this. That when they recontribute money that had been previously distributed, they're charged 7.5%. That's to compensate the funds for the investment return that didn't occur because they had received a prior distribution. My recommendation to the board is that the annuity rate be increased to the same as the CERS rate of 8.75, and that the 7.5% rate charged be maintained at the 7.5% that has been in place for some time. Danny, you
I
might
think you-
go over some of this and some of the calculations.
Yeah, and Dave, I want you to explain why it's important to have the same rate for both, but if Danny wants to address something first.
Sure. So this is the exhibit that GRS put together. And so what we have is 3 columns: age of retirement, 55, 60, 65. We have a cash balance person, tier 3 member. The amount of retirement is $200,000. One of the options for the member is to convert that hypothetical balance to a monthly benefit payable for the duration of the lifetime. So going into that, we come up with an annuity factor, administrative factor. There's an interest rate assumption built in, mortality assumption built in. And on the interest rate assumption, you can see how it plays into determining the amount of, it's at 5 1/4 right now. So when somebody retires right now, 5 1/4, that hypothetical person at age 60 would get $1,200, per month, the rest of their lifetime. If a different factor was used at 5,875, it would be about 6% higher or so. As John noted, that on the commercial side, it's really tied to fixed income securities, or the yield of fixed income securities that have changed since then and have gone up. Keep in mind when you purchase an annuity on the market, once that transaction's done, they can never go back and ask for money again. Whereas in this case, if you can assume some level of investment risk, an acceptable level, and if things don't work out perfectly or have excess or surplus, then you collect that money in terms of the unfunded liability on the amortization cost. So what this is once that person retires, what we're talking about is when somebody retires, while these factors are in use, that's their benefit for their lifetime. This process is investigated as a side byproduct or side note of an experience study. So we looked at new mortality tables, knew the investment return assumption. So as a side factor, we look at the administrative factors that go into this. And this is the discussion. This is the main discussion point right here is on that point. Now, once the next experience study is done in 4 years, this will often be looked at and say, all right, are the current factors still appropriate, or should they be updated to reflect more common or more economic conditions? I've got 2 more points I'd like to make, then we'll bring it open to questions. If we go down, we have the service purchase. And what happens is on the service purchase side is as the rates go up, the cost of service purchase goes down. You can buy a larger benefit for the same amount of money. And then when we go down to the bottom, John noted that you can also convert a life-only annuity to have a survivor ridership, at a cost or so of there's to be actuarially neutral, because you have that survivor benefit that doesn't exist on the basic form. So here we have an example of the basic benefit being $2,000 a month, and what it would be in those factors if you convert it to a joint 100 survivor. And the main point here is when you're comparing different survivor benefits, it's not the interest rate assumption is not a significant component in driving that cost. Rather, it's going to be the mortality and the difference in age. The last point I want to make, and the reason this is coming up, a major factor is the coordination of benefits within KPPA between the 2 systems, KRS and CRS. And the way I've explained it on the CRS side is, let's say hypothetically you have an identical twins in every aspect. One participates in the CRS system, one participates in KRS, the KRS, and they earn the same service, they have the same pay, everything's identical. You would think that on the backside that identical or the same administrative factors would be used for both systems, to result in the same benefit. And then there's also administrative reasons that KPPA can explain that currently their system is set up to only handle one set of administrative factors for both systems, and it would take a lot of effort to create two different sets of factors for use. So that's a high level summary. I'll open it up to more discussion.
Thank you, Danny. Danny, I think we've got 3 hands that have been up, so I'm gonna just take those in order of, I think it was Dave, then Keith, then Pruitt, and then we'll make sure that everybody else has a chance to weigh in. So
I think Keith, I think Keith was first, and then Pruitt, and then me.
Okay, Keith?
I'm gonna just get down to the point to this here. I think all the arguments for and against this, and I could talk about this for a long time. I think since KRS has already acted, I don't think any of them matter. We either have to follow their lead, or we have to disadvantage both the KPPA employees and make them try to administer 2 different benefit types for the same class of employees, and we also disadvantage our own membership if we don't follow their lead, because it will be actually more valuable in the long run to work for a C employer than a K employer. And I don't think we can afford to do that. So for that reason, I recommend we do exactly what John Chilton said and follow the KRS lead, and I'll make that motion.
Okay, before we go on to Pruitt, let me see if there's a second. And we'll continue the discussion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Pruitt. Okay, Pruitt, you want to go on and we'll continue the discussion?
I don't have my hearing aid in today, but did I hear John correctly? I know he meant to say 5.875. Did the record say 7.85?
5.875.
Okay, I just want to clarify that because I heard it at 7.85, but like I
I
said,
had the same Pruitt that he may have misspoken that rate.
so we just want to correct that in the minutes that it's 5.875, and I understand exactly what Keith is saying and in agreement.
Okay, thank you very much. And Dave?
I would just support what Keith said. There are 2 issues here. One is, do we have one rate for all the systems? And we strongly favor that from an administrative standpoint and from an equity standpoint, as Danny pointed out. And the second is what that rate should be. That's a policy decision. We'll leave that up to the boards to deal with, but we strongly encourage one single rate.
Okay, thank you, David. Mary, did I hear you?
Yes, and this is more for the actuaries. Can you, at a very high level, can you give us a sense of, compared to other states, is this in line with other states? Is it high? Is it low? The 5.875.
It's a little low, but that's because most other system, think of the median return assumption used by other systems is 7%. So it's fairly consistent with your return assumption used by these systems, KPPA. But for example, like the teachers that have a higher return assumption, I'm sure they're using a higher an interest rate assumption for their actual factors are much higher.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Miss Bova
Okay.
has her hand up.
Okay,
Hi,
sorry,
sorry.
Lindsay.
No, you're fine. Are we gonna have to make a decision right now on this? I don't feel like I've got enough information.
I'm gonna ask. Okay, when does this actually go into effect? Let me ask Aaron that question.
An effective date hasn't been set yet. We just first need the boards to make the decision on what the rates need to be, or the rate that needs to be used to determine the factors. So I think if all are in agreement, the soonest that we could get, depending on when we get the factors from GRS, the soonest would be a July 1st date if the same rate is used for the factors for all the plans.
Okay, so if we waited till December to make this official to take the vote, that would not hinder what you're doing? Or would it be?
Would it delay it, Aaron?
I think it would just set back GRS a few weeks in getting the actuarial factors completed. But Danny, if you want to make a comment on that, would that be any significant impact to you all?
Let
We
me ask
could
a question.
start,
Can I ask a question first? Do we agree that we need to have the same rates? I mean, as a group, I mean, can we come, is that in agreement, or is there some thought that maybe we should do something different?
Bill, I think we've still got a motion on the floor, so why don't we get all the questions done and
Okay.
maybe we can amend the motion with a question. Okay. So, so Danny, I think
we
the
could start
question
working
is
on
to
the
you.
factors now under the premise that those will be used for, those will be adopted.
Okay.
It's, we've got a process set up.
Okay. Okay, so Ramsey, what can we set up something that maybe you can have a private meeting with John and then probably call Danny in and go through more of the detail on this. I'm sorry that the letter wasn't included in the package. Those things should have been.
Sure. Yeah. I just want to make sure that we're not just making a decision because someone else is making a decision when I don't feel like we've really seen the numbers. I mean, or the effect of the numbers, but yes, that would be great.
Okay. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor and it's been seconded. We have another question from William. Keith, it's your motion. Do you want to table it or do you want us to vote?
No, I'll just, let me address what William just asked.
Okay.
If we don't do this at this point, Seaboard's already voted to do it. And if we don't do it, then we are voluntarily making the tier 3 annuity payouts of K members less valuable than the C system. We're essentially making ourselves a second class retirement as compared to the C plan. Now we can talk all day about how this wasn't the intention of separation, and I suspect very strongly it wasn't, but I don't think it matters now because now that's happened and they've chose to do this. And if we don't do it, then we're going to have an interest rate on annuities that is not on par with the C side.
And, personally, I felt that Danny's discussion and John's discussion that we're still conservative on our factors was something that helped me get to the conclusion. But I agree, Ramsey, you need to see more. So Keith, again, are you willing to, do you want us to vote today?
I don't think a single thing changes in the next few weeks. I mean, at the end of the day, we're either going to match what the C plan is doing, or we're going to voluntarily take a lower retirement payout for our tier 3 members.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what delaying, I don't know what it does.
Okay.
And listen, to just be honest, and this is to William and Ramsey both. I mean, if we had the first go of this, would I have voted to do it? No, I wouldn't have. But since we get the second go, we either follow their lead now, or we're just making our members' retirement less valuable in the future. And I just don't know. I don't know how I could possibly take that vote.
Yeah. And Ramsey, the other side that John mentioned is different than a public company. If there was any unfunded, what it would happen with it is the state and the various agencies would have to increase their contributions. So this is not something that unless they didn't make the contributions, this is not something that would hurt our funded ratios. Did I say that right, Danny?
You did. Yeah, whatever factors are ultimately used, we will build into, incorporate into the actual valuation.
Okay.
I guess that's my question. Why don't we see that now before we make the decision?
They haven't been adopted. And in all honesty, it's not, it's not going to be noticed in the contribution effort, or it'll be minimal. It's not, we're talking, it just the way it flows through. In terms of other assumptions, other, in the grand scheme of the totality of all the things that go into evaluation, this is minor.
So I think, Danny, would you agree it's actuarially insignificant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lynn, this is Mary again. Just to confirm, Aaron, the CERS did not set an effective date for this. Is that correct?
That's correct. The effective date isn't, I don't really think is the board decision to set that effective date. It's just, we will have to receive the factors from GRS, the new factors, load them into our system, and do testing prior to releasing the effective date. But I think if we can get the factors relatively soon, we should be able to meet a July 1st deadline effective date. If not, we can always bring that information back to the boards if we need to extend that for any reason.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 And opposed?
I don't know if I'm
Abstentions.
opposed or not. Waiting for more information.
How about an abstention?
Yeah, abstention. Perfect.
Okay, okay. Okay, did you get that count, Sherry or Katie?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, okay. Thank you, John, for bringing that up. And I'm glad we did it while Danny was here. And with no other questions on this, let's move on to the next agenda item.
Ms. Hampton?
Yes.
I'm sorry, if I may, Mr. Chilton brought up one other point in his summary. He discussed an interest rate of 7.5% that's used to calculate the recontribution of refunds. That interest rate is also used on our IPS installment purchase program. When a member purchases service over a maximum of 5 years, the interest rate charge is 7.5%. It's also used in calculating the late penalties for employer reporting and reinstatements for employees. This interest rate was not discussed at the CERS meeting, but again, all of the same, with the same rate, we would recommend that the same rate be used for all of the plans, and for all the same reasons that have already been discussed. But Mr. Chilton recommended that the rate stay at the 7.5%, which is what is currently in effect. So I think there may need to be a second motion for that rate, and then that could probably be discussed at the CERS, the next CERS meeting. Again, this isn't something that GRS or anyone would have to give anything to us. We would just load the factor in the system or maintain it like it currently is.
Okay, Aaron, if you could, can you hold that for a minute while we do this? One of the things I think before I get a phone call from Michael, I don't think I said the motion passes on the annuity
My
rate.
apologies. I was trying to wait
that's
till
all right.
everything was done.
No, that's all
Sorry
right.
about that.
So if I'm hearing you correct, you're talking about the rate that the service, what they pay, not what we pay. Is that correct?
Correct. It is
Okay.
the interest charge when someone repays. If they had taken a refund of their account and later begin participating, they can repay what was taken out.
Okay.
And they would be charged an interest charged from the time that they took the refund until the time they repaid it back into the system.
Okay, and the service credits, can you tell me, I mean, I know there's military, is there other service credits rather than military?
There are things, non-qualified military, there are several upwards of
Okay.
30 different service purchase types. The
Okay.
ones that Danny explained on the document that is on the screen, the actuarial factors are used to calculate those types of service purchases, which is different from the recontribution of refund, which just uses the interest charge that I was discussing.
Okay. Okay, that's a pretty complicated thing. Before we get a motion well, let's get a motion in a second and then we'll discuss it.
Well, Lynn, do we need a motion if we're not changing anything?
Aaron,
What's the reason for
Michael?
a motion if there's no change?
Michael,
Yeah, I would throw that to Michael just to say that to see if that needs to be done.
Just for the record, when I said I was making a motion to follow John Chilton's recommendations, I was including that. Now, if people didn't
Okay.
understand that, then that's fine. But that's the motion I made.
Okay.
okay. Okay, why don't we clarify for that for the minutes, Keith? And Michael, I think that takes care of it.
It does, yes. And I apologize. I was searching for my mute button to be able to unmute myself. But
Okay.
thank you for clarifying
Okay.
that. Keith.
Okay, Dave, you have your hand up?
Yeah, yes, I think I'm unmuted. You hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say that if you had an opportunity to listen to the Seaboard, there are a lot of discussions on the same issue, and they really made an effort to compromise what might otherwise been a push on their side to have a higher rate, and they agreed. It made most sense to be one rate, and they agreed that 587 seemed like a good compromise to them, and I was pleased with the way that came out.
Thank you, Dave. Any other comments? Again, I want to thank the board for all your thoughts, and Ramsey, we will make sure that you get the information that you need. Okay, so I think now we're on to the health plan committee, and is that Aaron or?
I think we're going to let Connie Pettyjohn
Okay,
cover that.
agreed.
Okay,
Connie,
the memo, Sherry. Okay, the committee met October the 23rd, the joint committee, and discussed some things with Humana, brought some information as they normally do this time of year around the formulary changes. The percentages are small when compared to last year as far as changes. So, any retiree impacted is going to receive this information in their next smart summary that's going out. No, it goes out monthly, but specifically the November and December will notify them if any of the medications they're taking were impacted. The committee looked at a follow-up on the pharmacogenomics, and this is the genetic testing. It's more like the preventive screening type testing. And this is a pilot that Humana is working on, and they haven't been able to evaluate it yet. That's going to happen in Q4. There you can see in the first paragraph. Well, actually, second paragraph. So we will get more information around that next year. Basically, the impact on the medication adherence, retirees' outcomes, hospitalizations, readmissions, those type of things to see if that's going to benefit a group of retirees to do that program. And then an update on how Humana's medication therapy management program, it's federally mandated to anyone that's, an MA plan offers, and they have criteria that Medicare sets. And there's some of those details in here, but I'll let you know that these people are actually, have a lot of chronic conditions and are taking a number of medications. So when they meet this criteria, they will get an analysis and an offer to do counseling with them that includes the pharmacist, and then ultimately a plan that goes to the physician. And I would want to point out those last two sentences, how our participation, the 77.2% in 2023, which isn't complete yet, but looking at our peer groups, we are doing a very good job in that area. And that is something that Medicare watches the plans for their beneficiaries to see the outcomes of this program and how they want to continue it and what they want to target going forward. We did give a brief snapshot of open enrollment that just started in October the 1st with the non-Medicare eligible retirees, which that is getting ready. Well, actually, it's closed on the 31st, but we're still sending files and getting everything ready for that group. But we're in the middle of the Medicare open enrollment season. And we did manage in October, with help, of course, not just the retiree healthcare team, but we did 8,000 more calls than we did last October. We'll have a thorough update of open enrollment stats and our outreach in the February meeting when it's over, because it's over the 30th of November as far as open enrollment opportunity for retirees to change their plans. And we have went out in additional outreaches this year, both the Department of Employee Insurance for the non-Medicare eligible retirees. We partnered with them and went out to at least 5 locations, which last year they only did 1. So we are seeing more that way. People are watching our webinars. We both are still doing webinars. They're watching those online even after open enrollment or at odd hours, which that's fine. We are getting, they do seem to like that and take use of that benefit, as well as Humana is working also. We went out with them to about 4 or 5 locations across the state, and that is more than last year. And I went out myself to some retiree group meetings, and so has some of my staff, as well as Humana. We feel like we've done quite a few of those this year. I think we do have one scheduled even next week for Corbin area retirees. And they want to send a message back to you. They said to thank you for watching their benefit and their access to care, to the plans you offer, especially we're talking with the Humana plan, because the premium went down, and they really appreciate that. And especially we have a large number of non-hazardous who pay for their spouses. So that was something they wanted me to tell you to bring back and share with the board. So if I have any questions, I'm available, but really that's all I have, other than I think Humana is on. You, Larry or Tracy, do you mind giving a update on the Baptist contract?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. No material update, I would say. We continue to be in frequent conversation with Baptist to resolve the negotiation and renewal of their contract with us. So those conversations are ongoing. They are continuing to see KPPA members on a non-par basis. So your retirees, are able to see those physicians with no interruption there. So we're hopeful that we'll come to a new agreement. It's complicated, as you can imagine, but the good news for your folks is that they are able to continue seeing those doctors without interruption. So as soon as there's a more material update, we'll alert Connie and be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Okay. I just wanted to add one thing to Mr. Lowe's statement. We did have Humana, there is a letter that the retirees can take to the provider that has the right phone number for the provider to call at Humana to discuss how to bill and that kind of thing. And I want to tell you, as many retirees as I went out and seen in person, I had around 80 at the Frankfurt location, 45 at the Louisville location. No one has had an access to care issue that Humana hadn't been able to assist them with. And so I'm not hearing that they can't get in to see these providers. I'm hearing a little confusion, which Humana will call the provider, or they'll give them, the retirees all have they have access to that letter. So the letter is one way they can just do that, or we've also set up where Humana can call the provider with and assist the retiree. So I wanted to give you that update and let you know we posted that letter on our website as well with the open enrollment materials. So anyone can see that, even providers, if say, hey, there is, and or hand out the phone number. So I wanted to let you know that's what that status is at this time. And if there's any questions, please let me know.
Any questions? I have some information. I just thought it might be interesting to everyone that United Healthcare is in the same predicament as Humana. Or
yeah, I've heard that Kentucky teachers, they have a similar, yes, exactly. Ms. Hampton, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. So yeah, we're between us, let's say we've got, I'm guessing, we estimated something like 15,000. I know they have 13,000 with the Baptist providers. So that's a group that can't change insurance just like us. And they have the same in and out of network benefit there. And I have discussed that with teachers. So we're kind of consistent with that issue. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Okay, the next on the agenda is the statutory required reporting to the LRC, and I'm not sure who's taking the lead in this.
I think that'll be me, Lynn.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning to everybody. This is just informational for you. We've been doing this for years, but we hadn't reported it in this way to the board. We're just letting you guys know. There are a series of statutorily required reporting to Legislative Research Commission. Generally, they pass it along to PPOB. Sometimes we refer to it as giving it to PPOB. Sometimes PPOB will ask us to actually present the reports, but the reports are sent via email to a single person at the Legislative Research Commission, LRC. This is the list of the reports that are due around this time. Most of them are November 15th, which is tomorrow. Most of these will go out at that point. There's a couple that the investment reportings are readily available on our websites all the time. Some of them have already been sent. Is there any specific questions about any of these pieces that you guys had? It's really just informational.
I thank you on that. Is anyone interested in seeing these reports that you'd also like Rebecca to forward them? Okay. Okay, with that, we have the next on the agenda is the contracting report. And is that Dewan?
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Pursuant to KRS 615991, certain KRS employers have to report data on contracted employees to KPPA, and then KPPA must report that data to LRC and the Office of State Budget Director. All agencies did submit all the required documentation timely, and KPPA sent this data to LRC and OSBD on August 28, 2023. However, on the report, we did have to mark Mountain Comprehensive Care Center as non-compliant, as they have refused to report individuals that they have on contract who KPPA deemed to be employees pursuant to KRS 61.675. These employees should have been reported on their report for fiscal year 2023. However, their stance is that they do not consider these individuals as employees and therefore have not added them to their monthly report. So KPPA is currently discussing next steps on that option. So KRS 615991 also requires KPPA to perform audits each fiscal year to ensure that employers are subject to these reporting requirements and are reporting all eligible employees, and contributions are being paid on all the employees. At the March 1st, 2023 meeting, KRS board meeting, the board decided that the RC staff audit 5% of the agencies each fiscal year. The RC team had already completed audits on Judy's Place for Kids and Life Skills, but we completed additional audits on Buffalo Trace Children's Advocacy Center, Comprehend, and Silverleaf Sexual Trauma Recovery Series for the remainder of fiscal year 2023. In the memo, I just listed information that KPPA requests during each audit and also listed the results of the audits. Just starting for fiscal year 2024, the ERC team has started audits on Mercer County Health Department and also Bourbon County Health Center. And this memo is for informational purposes only. However, if you have any questions, you can let me know.
Thank you, Dawn. Any questions? Hearing none, let's go on the next agenda item. The
Lynn,
next
it's
agen-
Mary, excuse me, one more
Okay.
question. How many contract persons do you suspect are at the Mountain Comprehensive?
Contract person. If you go to the spreadsheet, if Sherry, can you go to the spreadsheet at the bottom? It's actually listed on there. If you go down to Mountain Comprehensive Care Center.
The one, it's super
It's
hard to
down at
read.
the bottom.
It's
Yeah, it's hard to read, but
1,684.
1,600, yeah.
Mm.
1,684 persons on their contract. But they're stating their stance is that they don't feel that they are employees and that they are actual independent contractors.
And that's with 90 that are agreed as employees?
Yes, they are currently reporting 90 persons each month on their monthly report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those are big numbers and will cause some issues, to say the least. Next, we have to discuss the December meeting, and I'm going to ask for Sherry's help in here. We found that the KPPA meeting was moved to, if I'm not correct, I think it was December 6th, and our meeting is December 7th. Sherry, are those dates right?
Yeah, so it wasn't really moved. It was just part of, that's how the schedule was made last year. So,
Okay.
but yes, the KPPA meeting is scheduled for December 6th, while your KRS board meeting is scheduled for December 7th.
Okay, and there will be material on the December 7th KRS meeting that needs to be approved for KPP or approved or moved to KPPA. So Sherry, you said that you've got a few days that would work. Can you tell us what those are?
Well, you can do Friday, December 1st, or we do have Tuesday, December 5th. That's also available.
For a straw man, why don't we look at the December 5th? And there's no other meetings, Sherry, no other KRS meetings on the 7th?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. Not the 5th, I'm sorry.
The 5th, yes.
Okay.
You're correct. It's completely open.
Can you all look at your calendar and see if we can, if you could attend and we're open on time, but we can start with 10 o'clock on the 5th. Let me run down. Dave? You're okay?
Yeah, we're fine. We have just a internal meeting that could be moved. We're
Okay,
fine.
Keith?
In fact, it's 1 o'clock, so it's not even in conflict.
Okay. Keith? Are you okay on the 5th?
Uh-huh.
John?
Yes.
William?
I have a 9 o'clock that morning, so I could be running a little bit late, but I'm sure that I could get there no later than 5-10 minutes if I'm late at all.
Okay. Thank you. We'll keep going down. Mary?
You're saying December 5th, right?
December 5th.
That's fine with me. Thank you.
Okay. Ramsey?
I would just be running late. I've got a quick meeting at 10, but should be over by no later than 10:30.
Okay, right now I might be, let me finish with Crystal, Dr. Miller.
I'm good for that date.
Okay, Pruitt, are you still on? Yep.
Yep, I'm good.
Okay, if we moved it to 10:30, which would, I think, help both Ramsey and William, is there any objection to that?
Nope. That'd be great.
Okay,
Perfect
so,
for me.
okay,
Thank you.
Sherry, I don't think we have any other board members on. So Sherry, if you would move the meeting and do whatever we have to do that Michael says to officially move the meeting. I guess, Michael, do we need to actually adopt that? Or is it a special meeting?
It'll be called a special meeting because you're
Okay.
moving it.
Yes,
Okay.
it will be a special meeting, and so we'll be tied to just the items listed on the agenda for that meeting. So we'll have to be very precise in preparing that agenda and for
Okay,
making sure all the items and all the materials are included.
Great. Okay. Okay, so Sherry will send out a notice and we'll move the meeting until December 5th at 10:30.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so next we have John and the CEO update. Is that right? Let me look. I've got contract reporting of quasi government. Got that one. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention some things that I've been working on in the last time since the 3 months since the last meeting.
John, man, it's a little bit difficult to hear you. Can I get a little bit more volume somewhere?
Okay, I'll get closer to the microphone. How's that?
Okay.
So is that better?
That's better.
Okay. There was a trustee education session that I attended. I think Mary was involved in that one. I've attended the PPOB meetings to monitor what's going on there. We have had discussions about the housekeeping bill and other legislation that may come forward during the upcoming session. I've been working on those. When you get the actuarial factor, the interest rate memo, you'll see that was complicated. It took me a while to get that together with the assistance of GRS, and we'll continue to monitor things that are going to that will happen during the upcoming legislative session. So that's kind of my report.
Any questions for John? Okay, on new business, I will just let everybody know that the committee to advertise and move forward with the selection of a new CEO has been working hard. And that is, I'm on it from KRS, and Bill O'Meara chairs it. And he's on CERS and the staff. I'm
And
sorry.
you mean the executive director, I believe. Not
What did I
CEO.
say? Oh, yeah, executive director. Thank you. John, did I make John nervous there? Anyway, thanks. The staff is doing a great job working with us and providing information. So we've got another meeting this afternoon, and hopefully very soon that position will be posted. So, and we're going to post it fairly broad, but we are not using a search firm. Any questions of me on that? Okay, Michael, I think we're going to go into closed session. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Just have a brief time in closed session. I'll try to respect the trustees' time today after already been here for a while on this meeting.
Okay, I need a motion then to go into closed session.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Okay, and the motion to enter closed session pursuant to KRS 621.810C to discuss pending in litigation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And